The average male height is about 5'7" to 5'9". It's not uncommon to see someone who's 6'1" or higher, and it's not uncommon to see someone that's 5'6" or lower. It's also not unheard of to know someone who's 6'6" and someone who's 5'2". You get the picture. I myself was 5'2" when I was 12. I was shorter than a lot of people, but then I was 5'6" when I was 13, which means I grew about 4 inches in about 1 year. Someone watching this has probably grown more in a shorter amount of time, but you haven't grown as much as Adam Rayner did.
I don't actually know that much about Adam Rayner beyond how much he grew in height, because no one does, so I can't find the information because it doesn't exist.
He was apparently small and weak when he was a child, and by the time he was 18, he was 4'6". And when he was 19, he was 4'8". A dwarf is someone who's 4'10" or shorter, and Adam Rayner was that height at 21, which is about when most people stop growing. But his shoe size was 20. Even though he only grew a few inches in the past few years, he grew 10 shoe sizes. But still, his height is seeming to round off. He might realistically grow like an inch or two more, but I think most people would have given up on being tall by then. But 10 years later, he was 7'1.5". Between the ages of 21 and 31, he grew 2 feet and 3 inches. That was because he had a tumor on his pituitary gland, which made the hormones just keep coming. So he had acromegaly. Big words here. Unfortunately, it meant that he also went partially deaf and blind, and his spine was so bad he couldn't even walk, and he went to an elderly home at the age of 32, but still, he reached a maximum height at 7'8" by the time he was 51. He grew another 6-7 inches even after his tumor got removed. That would make him go from obviously a super short person, too short to join the army, to the 75th tallest person of all time, or at least verified. He's probably at least top 100, even if you count people that a certain beer company hasn't measured. Some reports have said that he was 3'10", and some reports also say that he ended up at 7'10". I don't know where the 3'10" thing came from, but 7'10" is only 2 inches higher than how tall he was confirmed to be. But that's also 2 inches of deviation away from the average, and we're already more than 2 feet out from that. Even if you count that as his height, you'd expect that being 74 or so places above him would only be a few inches taller than him. And since we're incrementing by one space out of 117 billion, the competition should be pretty tough. But you probably also know that Robert Wadlow is the tallest person ever, and he was 9 feet tall with shoes on. He was about 1 foot and 3 inches taller than Adam Rayner. The second tallest person ever was 8'9", and the third tallest person was 8'8", and then 8'7", and then 8'6", and then the places start to increment by less than an inch. But it's still so few people. The tallest person right now compared to Robert Wadlow being 8'11" is only about 8'3". People just don't get as tall as they used to anymore, because now we know how to operate on people that are that tall, so we can stop whatever problem is causing them to have so much height. It's kind of a two-edged sword, where the good thing is that the people don't have to have the health complications anymore, but then the bad thing is that we don't get people that are 9 feet tall anymore.
The average height for a dwarf is 4'0", and the average height of a giant is not really that well known, but I'd say about 7 feet to 7'3".
The minimum height to be a giant is 6'6", and Adam Rayner obviously went well above that, and he started out also pretty well below the maximum height to be a dwarf. Only about 3,000 people in the world are 7 feet tall or higher. That's not all time, but good luck trying to find that statistic. And only about 30 people have ever been 8 feet or above. We would have had a 9-footer if Robert Wadlow didn't get a leg infection, because his wingspan was 9'5", and he was also very slowly, he was still growing. You can tell that when it rains, it pours when it comes to height. But again, you'd expect with 117 billion people that it would pour more often than it has. And it might have, because there have been a lot of claims where people have said that they were a really big height. But if Guinness doesn't agree with it, then it's not official. Also, this is the same Guinness as the beer Guinness, just in case you didn't know that. That's what it started out with. Okay, for example, Abu El Sayed was apparently 10'2", Goliath was apparently 9'9", John Hale was apparently 9'6", and John Middleton, the child of Hale, was apparently 9'3". That one is kind of easier to believe, and I think if any of these were to be true, that one would be closest to the realm of possibility, especially since Robert Wadlow had a bigger wingspan than 9'3". That's the one that I kind of believe for some reason, even though Guinness puts him at a measly 7'9". There have definitely been people that are very tall but not confirmed. That's a very obvious statement. I guess that's the end of what I have to say. I found this stuff interesting because I like to learn about my own species, I guess. I don't know. The end. Subscribe. Goodbye.